A very good evening. You're watching India Sense. I'm Gaurie Dwivedi. This is your show that gets you a weekly dose of all that matters to you, the global Indian. But first up, we start with headlines. It's been 100 days and counting since Chinmoy Krishna has been in jail in Bangladesh with no update on when he will get bail. Is this a reflection of the anarchy that Bangladesh Army Chief had spoken about, with students forming a party for a second republic? Is there still any hope for elections in Bangladesh? Pakistan remains consistent in its ranking on the Global Terror Index, holds firm to the number 2 spot for 5th straight year, only after Burkina Faso. The terrorism factories it started are now coming back to haunt Islamabad. Justin Trudeau set to bid a tearful goodbye after 10 years of being Canada's Prime Minister. We decode the legacy Trudeau leaves behind. Mark Carney leads the race to replace Trudeau. Repairing the relationship with India will be one of his key focus areas. After decades of ignoring defence needs, European Union set to spend over 800 billion euros on defence capabilities. The move comes after American funding has dried up for NATO under Trump. Is this the end of the great European socialist dream, which prioritized social security over defence? And Indian equities rebound after deep corrections and after factoring all negative news, including major tariff hikes from the US. The Indian market is largely in line with the German market that has also rebounded, and in sharp contrast to the US indices. Will American consumers and American companies be the biggest loser in the high-stakes tariff trade-off? All right, viewers, it's been 100 days, 100 long days since Chinmoy Krishna was arrested on 25th of November 2024. The man who once led ISKCON's Bangladesh chapter and became a beacon of resistance for the minority Hindu community has been languishing in jail under charges of sedition, dubious charges, if I may say so. In fact, charges critics and human rights organizations have called nothing short of judicial harassment. But on India Sense, we ask, why is this case stuck with little progress? And what happens now? Why no hearing? Why no bail application? His bail application was rejected on 2nd of January, citing flimsy charges that he would cause anarchy. But his lawyers applied for bail again with no update so far. Chinmoy's lawyer, Rabindra Ghosh, has been under immense pressure since then. The 74-year-old has sought medical treatment in India, has even sought time with India's top political leadership. But this is not about his lawyer. This is about Chinmoy Krishna, and should he get justice that the law of the land provides to every citizen of Bangladesh. Remember, the silence from Mohammad Yunus, the Nobel laureate turned interim leader of Bangladesh, has been deafening on this. Yunus, who's the chief architect of Hasina's ouster, who claimed to be the white knight of human rights and democratic progress, now finds himself in the uncomfortable position of playing second fiddle to Islamists that seem to be in influential position in Bangladesh. What was touted as a revolution has turned into, well, many would say a game of power grab, because you also now have the student revolutionaries starting their own political party, Jatiya Nagorik Party. They claim to be building a second republic. Listen in.
হাজারো শহীদদের আত্মত্যাগের বিনিময়ে অর্জিত এই নতুন স্বাধীনতা কেবল একটি সরকার পতন করে আরেকটি সরকার বসানোর জন্যই ঘটেনি। জনগণ বরং রাষ্ট্রের পৃষ্ঠে জেঁকে বসা ফ্যাসিবাদী ব্যবস্থা বিলোপের মাধ্যমে একটি নতুন রাজনৈতিক বন্দোবস্তের আকাঙ্ক্ষা থেকে এই অভ্যুত্থানে সাড়া দিয়েছিল, যেন জনগণের অধিকার ভিত্তিক ও মর্যাদা ভিত্তিক একটি রাষ্ট্র পুনর্গঠিত হয়।
It's interesting that the soundbite that you just heard actually said that the aspiration was to rebuild a state based on rights and dignity of the people. Dhaka has hit rock bottom simply because now there are Islamists that are making moves behind the scenes. Jamaat-e-Islami and its affiliates have successfully infiltrated the interim government, leaving little room for true democratic change. These elements, which are now in position of power, have no interest in holding elections. Not anytime soon. Their authoritarian instincts threaten to derail the fragile hope of a new Bangladesh. And at the center of it all, unfortunately, is Mr. Yunus. He is, well, as I said, playing second fiddle with forces from all sides pulling him in different directions. His ties with Pakistan, a nation once ranked second on the global terror list, complicates matters further. Or as the country's secular dreams fade, the students who fought in the streets have been waiting for reforms. Even political parties like the BNP are waiting for elections. Ostensibly, these students took to streets to oust one dictator, only to see another form of oppression take root. And as the country edges closer to the brink, the dream of a renewed Bangladesh, unfortunately, doesn't look that near. Our first wide-angle story on the show this week is from Pakistan. From the world of cricket to the depths of economic, political and internal insecurity, Islamabad has yet to find its footing in any area that demands long-term commitment and stability. And one thing it's remarkably consistent on is its ranking in the Global Terrorism Index. And yet again in 2025, Pakistan is holding firm at number 2 spot. On your screens are those graphics that will play out. 5th year in a row, Pakistan has seen a rise in terror-related fatalities. Terror attacks have peaked 45%, largest surge in a decade. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. As per the index, Pakistan witnessed 1,099 attacks, 1,081 fatalities, and 1,500 injuries. These numbers indicate the first time in the history of the index that any country has surpassed 1,000 attacks in a single year. In fact, this sharp increase in violence has primarily been due to the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, TTP, whose presence has grown very significantly. The group is responsible for 52% of all terror-related deaths in Pakistan. Not only this, the TTP's death toll has risen by 91% from the previous year, but it also became the fastest-growing terror organization in the entire region, accounting for 558 fatalities. This surge is a direct result of the Taliban's rise to power in neighboring Afghanistan. It has emboldened militant groups on both sides of the border. There's also the BLA, that is the Balochistan Liberation Army, that's added another layer of complexity to Pakistan's terror dilemma. In fact, it's a terror complex that itself created, and I'll explain that. The BLA claimed responsibility for the deadliest attack of 2024. It was a suicide bombing at the Quetta railway station, killed 25 civilians and soldiers. Baloch separatist groups have seized upon the instability because they have been demanding that Pakistan go back on those Chinese-funded projects in the CPEC that violate their sovereignty, their local rights. The majority of these attacks have been aimed at Pakistan's military and police forces, with the police being the most frequently targeted. This surge in terror attacks is both a symptom and a cause of the nation's long-followed strategy of using terror as a state tool. Pakistan has created this problem. It has for long provided logistical, military, financial support and aid to the Afghan Taliban and the Haqqani network. And it is deeply ironic that ever since the same Taliban that it once created has come back to power in Afghanistan, attacks on Pakistan's soil have risen substantially. Well, in the words of Hillary Clinton, when you have snakes in your backyard, they will come back to bite you one fine day. And Pakistan is, remember, hemorrhaging from several wounds. There is political instability, there's social unrest, there's an economy in shambles, and this global terrorism index that shows probably the worst is yet to come, because TTP has vowed to hit Pakistan's army's commercial interests and comes after Pakistan Army's December attacks on TTP hideouts. It's not for nothing, viewers, that Trump 2.0 is pushing for a travel ban that targets Pakistan and Afghanistan because of the kind of security risks and threats that emanate from here. Second wide-angle story on the show. One of the biggest casualty of Donald Trump's refrain to bankroll NATO anymore has been Europe's long-held belief that it can afford to not put money in defense and instead double down on its socialism model, where work weeks have been shrinking, more and more people are being part of the social benefits, of course bankrolled by the exchequer. The European socialism model, which rested on cheap Chinese goods, cheap Russian gas, and US-funded security architecture is pretty much over. Why this is a watershed moment for the continent, this report tells you.
We gave you, through this stupid president, $350 billion. If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks. It's time to stop this madness. It's time to halt the killing.
Less than a week after the Trump administration stopped all aid to Ukraine and made it clear Europeans need to pay for European security, Ursula von der Leyen, the EU chief, was forced to cough up over 800 billion euros for the continent's security, to be paid by the entire 27-member European Union bloc. A move that will have a dire impact on the finances of most European countries, which have long ignored their security and defense. Most European nations do not even spend the NATO-mandated 2% of GDP on defense, choosing to prioritize social security. The EU average is just above 1%. But some like Ireland, Belgium, Czech Republic, Germany, Croatia, Luxembourg, Austria, Portugal, and Switzerland do not even spend this bare minimum. Years of neglect will mean the upgrade for armed forces will cost large capex for most European nations. Most European governments are struggling with deficit budgets and higher cost of living, both of which could go up more as governments roll back social spends, possibly be forced to announce less populist measures, and boost defense spending. A protectionist trade regime will probably end the era of cheap goods. End of the Russia-Ukraine war will allow Moscow to renegotiate the one-sided energy pacts, which will increase gas prices. Add to this the high defense costs, and Europe's socialist model may be dead. But how will this impact popular sentiment and politics on the continent remains to be seen. All right, a quick break on the show. We come back with lots more on the other side. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching India Sense. Let's now focus on the inside story this week, which is from Canada. Well, in 48 hours, Justin Trudeau will be replaced by a new leader. In all probability, that will be Mark Carney as the new leader of the Liberal Party, as well as the new interim Prime Minister of Canada. He has to address a lot of things, given that Justin Trudeau's legacy is a mixed bag with a lot of economic downturns under his belt. This report tells you just what all are the mess that Trudeau has left behind.
This is the job I signed up for. This is the job I will continue to do until the very last moment I'm doing this job. This has been the honor of my life serving Canadians.
Our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau.
Thursday afternoon, Justin Trudeau fought back tears at what may be his final press conference as Prime Minister of Canada, delivering a speech that was as hollow as his promises. "We've got your back," he assured Canadians, as the reality of his leadership's failures could not be ignored. From a dismal economic growth record to a trade war ignited by Donald Trump, Trudeau's claims of progress are as empty as his political capital. Trump, never one to miss an opportunity for mockery, has referred to Trudeau as Governor Trudeau, joking that Canada might as well become the 51st state. But it's no laughing matter for Canadians, who've suffered under a stagnant economy and increasing tariffs, while Trudeau has failed to negotiate effectively on their behalf. This week, Trump slapped Canada with 25% tariffs on all goods, sending shockwaves through the economy. And while Trudeau threatened retaliation, the reality is the US holds the upper hand. In the end, the best he could muster was a promise of transition to a new leader. But that leadership, many argue, will be better at picking up the pieces than Trudeau ever was. Trudeau's economic growth numbers are dismal at best, lower than even the Harper years, which he once criticized so vehemently. For all his talk of investing in the future, it seems Trudeau's policies have only left Canadians with higher deficits and lower standards of living.
You can continue to count on each other. Canadians have been there for each other, for small businesses, for local producers, for friends. Canadians will pull together and continue to pull together with deep, deep pride in country as all of us stand together to defend Canada.
And yet, in a moment of self-reflection, he said he put Canadians first every single day. If only that had been true. Without mincing words, India has slammed the United Kingdom for its glaring security lapse during External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar's visit to London. Listen in.
I would like to again reiterate that we have conveyed our deep concern to the UK authorities about the breach of security arrangements by UK-based separatist and extremist elements during External Affairs Minister's visit. There is a larger context to the incident, and it's important to understand that. It brings out both the license accorded to such forces as well as indifference to their intimidation, threats and other actions aimed at impeding our legitimate diplomatic activities in the UK. While we have noted the statement issued by the UK Foreign Office on the matter, our view of its sincerity would depend on the action taken against culprits on this and previous occasions.
Okay, the security breach is not an isolated occurrence. In March 2023, pro-Khalistan elements had defiled the Indian flag at the Indian High Commission in London, and in that instance, New Delhi summoned the senior-most British diplomat in Delhi. UK government's condemnation of the incident, expected, seemed lackluster in its sincerity. Prime ministers have changed, but the Khalistani problem in the UK persists. India has made it clear that it won't take this lying down. The UK government's inability to act decisively in curbing the influence separatist groups have on its soil is no longer a matter of diplomatic courtesy. It's a matter of national security. And this incident is a stark reminder that the UK government must decide whether it will continue to turn a blind eye to these extremist elements or take concrete steps to protect diplomatic relations. New Delhi stands resolute, demanding not just condemnation, but the kind of action that speaks much louder than empty words. All right, viewers, on the eve of International Women's Day, I spoke with Suchitra Ella, who is the co-founder of Bharat Biotech, on the journey, why she chose to name the company Bharat, and what was it like coming to India from the US in the mid-90s into a space where not much was being done in India 30 years ago. Listen in.
This is Harvard India Conference. We talk about what India will be going forward. The fact that you chose to call your company Bharat, the fact that you chose to come back at a time when Indian healthcare and biotechnology industry was not where it is right now. The fact that starting a company wasn't so easy in India. And the fact that the STEM industry, the scientific R&D industry in India was not where it was almost 30 years back. What got you here? Because as I said, a conversation with a woman entrepreneur should start with about what it is like to be a woman entrepreneur in India.
This is, in fact, I don't know how to even begin this, but it's this journey for us, for me, because I have to mention to you that all the introduction that was made with all humility, I would have to share it along with my executive chairman, Dr. Krishna Ella, with whom I traveled this journey for the last 40 years. And it was way back in 1986 that both of us, with our 2-year-old daughter, moved to the United States. And we spent 15 years in college, training and working and raising a young family. But I said, Krishna, is this why we came to the United States? Or is there a larger meaning behind this? So I said, I'm ready to go back when you are ready to follow me. So that's how it all began.
What made you name your company Bharat?
Bharat was appointed by me because I did all the paperwork. I said my background was in economics, so all that helped. So I used to do all the paperwork, filling all the forms to the banks and the government offices and everything. I mean, everything is paperwork ultimately. Even today, if you still have to type it on your systems. I called it Bharat because I said, in my own thought process, I said, I belong to India. I grew up in India. I took all my initial years of growing up, my education, my children, my parents, the upbringing, the value systems, until college that I was there. I said, I could not think of a better name because I know Bharat stands for many, many, many more things glorious in the past as well. So I said it cannot be called anything else but Bharat.
As I said, the COVID part changed all of us, changed your company. It allowed your company to really give that opportunity to serve not just India, serve the world through India. And I think that was probably the big, I would say, that lasting contribution that your company had in terms of Malapine, because it was not just Indians, right? You're talking about millions of doses to people outside India.
That were also sent out outside of India. Yeah, our pandemic vaccine was not a fluke. I've said this before.
No, research is not a fluke. Research can never be fluke. Yes,
there were many doubts, of course. It's human, and doubts are good to have. But we could only have, we could only do it, or we were prepared to do it because of, by then we had clocked in 25 years in India. I was saying this to Gaurie earlier this afternoon. When we moved back to India, India was 50, and we at Bharat were 0. When the pandemic hit us, India was 75. She was 75 and Bharat was 25. So in 25 years of our existence in India, we had allowed ourselves as an organization to build a strong backbone of research and partnerships, collaborations from across the world. And we believed in ensuring that we translate these technology platforms into products and vaccines.
All right, first up on Worldview, China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has sent a clear message to New Delhi. It's time for the elephant and the dragon to unite amidst escalating tensions with the US, especially after the US imposed higher tariffs on Chinese goods. Wang's words are a clear recognition of the growing global threat, with Donald Trump's political resurgence casting shadows over international relations. China acknowledges that its future depends on fostering stronger collaborative ties with India. By advocating for cooperation over competition, Wang Yi underscores a critical shift in strategy. The focus is no longer just on power plays, but on democratizing global relations and strengthening the global south. The message is unmistakable. If the two giants of Asia stand united, they can reshape the global order, steering it away from the hegemonies that increasingly define our world. What started as a routine parliamentary session in Serbia on 4th of March 2025 quickly descended into utter chaos. Smoke bombs and flares lit up the chamber and at least 3 lawmakers were injured, one seriously as tensions boiled over. The vote was supposed to be about increasing funding for universities, but opposition parties saw it as just another power grab. With whistles blaring and a banner proclaiming Serbia has risen so the regime would fall, the chamber became a battlefield. As tempers flared, eggs, water bottles and even more violent clashes ensued. Serbian media reports confirmed the carnage, with officials later confirming serious injuries. Speaker lashed out, calling the opposition a terrorist gang, a chaotic scene that underscored the deep political and unshakable crisis engulfing Serbia. Months of anti-corruption protests have already left the government reeling, with the resignation still pending of the PM. All right, that's all the time I have in this edition of India Sense. Thanks so much for watching.